Let me disabuse you of the idea that there is somebody at the wheel, that there's a rational, sane, composed adult who's manipulating events, and though things look bad, things look rough, that at the end of the day, they'll all just magically work out. There is no magic man at the wheel. In this particular case, you have hubris and you have brinksmanship. Both of those things, just like in the Cuban Missile Crisis, can lead us to our end. While people go about their day, sipping their cappuccinos from Starbucks, driving in their cars to work, all of their concerns of an individual, an individuated unit of consciousness, who has all of the concerns of drama at home, drama at work. Bob at work is an asshole. Bob at work is preventing me from doing X. Well, I am going to fuck over this person in order to get more. Or for that matter, I'm just going to be a nice, decent human being and go about my way, and I'm going to do this or that. Whatever the dramas that people deal with, and those dramas are real to the individuals that are dealing with those dramas. There are larger contextual issues. In those larger contextual issues, I don't necessarily know how much media penetration it's had. I don't pay attention to mainstream media per se, only in as far as do the show. There are terrifying events that are taking place. When Donald Trump pulled out of the INF treaty, the intermediate, what is the acronym? The Intermediate Missile Treaty is preventing the intermediate missiles within a certain span from being fired. Right here. To forego land-based weapons. Signed in 1987 by Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, within ranges of 500 and 5,500 kilometers. Land-based missiles, essentially, scrub them. It's not allowed. It's not just the treaty itself. There's a certain de-escalation of tensions from what almost ended the world in a Cuban Missile Crisis. And it almost ended the world not, with people making rational choices on flawed intelligence. John Bolton is a maniac. For all those people who thought that Donald Trump was going to be this kind of peacemaker with Russia, and all those other people who thought that Donald Trump was a Putin puppet, all of you are wrong. For all intents and purposes, the moment that John Bolton was brought into the mix, any idea that this guy was some kind of peacenik, or any idea that this guy was going to make some kind of peace with Russia, went out the window. John Bolton has a particular ideology of the world, and anywhere that you put John Bolton is going to enforce that ideology. He is whispering in the ear of a reality show host. That reality show host is taking it in and is essentially a puppet. Deep state. You don't know what you guys are talking about. Take a look at this. This took place, what was it, a couple of days ago? No, yesterday, November 1st. Right here, I hope it shows. If there's any hiccup in the video itself, I have a lot of windows open, so sometimes that adversely affects the video. Let's see, 1 second. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. That's what it is. I wanted to give it. I don't like just saying the acronym. The acronym is nice, but I want people to know what it is. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. I've done videos on this before. I just couldn't remember the acronym. All right, so right here. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. That's beautiful in a terrifying way. I'm a sucker for technology and science. What you're watching, or what you were watching, was the United States ship firing a missile, or what they call a kill vehicle, and slamming that kill vehicle into another projectile. Essentially, the thought being, we're shooting another missile out of the sky. This is, for all intents and purposes, Star Wars. Now, I have nightmares at the objectives of the U.S. military, meaning this kind of world domination, and this world domination, particularly with regards to space. This is them saber rattling. They're not doing this just to do it. Now, to be fair, the two previous tests failed, but one of the other tests succeeded, so it's not necessarily a bulletproof system. And even with that, that's assuming this is like a modest test. It's no reason to believe that any country is just going to send one missile. It will likely send a volley of missiles. Nonetheless, the United States has successfully saber rattling and showing their might, knocking a bullet out of the sky with another bullet. I can't think of the movie that did that, but that's what's taking place. Now, within the context of that, there's context. There's always a context. But take a look at this. This is Russia doing his own saber rattling, showing his hypersonic missiles a few months ago. This is supposed to be invincible and impervious to Western NATO forces that seek to bottle Russia in. Take a look at this. Yeah, there's more. China shoots down another missile in space. I thought this was a satellite in space. But earlier, China shot down a satellite in space, which sent off alarm bells to the United States. This is February. China shoots down another missile in space. I'm just going through headlines. October 31st. Allies show off might in NATO's biggest war game since post-Cold War. NATO began the main phase of the military exercises and display of force meant to underlie its ability to deter Russia, because they still believe Russia is going to go barreling into the country. They're still fighting communists. It's amazing. The Soviet Union fell and they're still fighting Soviets. Right here. This is in September. Russia launches biggest war game since the Cold War with more than 300,000 troops. There's more. Russia to hold live fire drills outside of Norway amid mass drills. Now, here's the catch. This is going on at the exact same time of this, and within the same area as this. Meaning, Russia to hold live fire drills outside of Norway amid massive NATO drills. This is where your world is. This is where your world is. Just so we're clear, Flint, Michigan, it's anybody's guess whether they have clean water. I suggest people take a visit to California and walk through the homeless towns and encampments. The United Nations came to the United States and said some of the poverty conditions were like third world countries. We are having a fight over whether or not we are going to supply health care for millions of Americans that still don't have it even after Obamacare. Infrastructure is crumbling. This is the world that we live. But no expense is spared for boondoggles, military boondoggles. Part of, and I'm not going to keep this long, but this idea of the INF Treaty goes beyond this idea of just let's not kill each other. It allows a luft. It takes the knife from the throat of the other person. Okay, I'm not going to murder you if you don't murder me. Now let's at the very least have the capacity to talk to one another. That's not innocuous. That's actually a big fucking deal. Let me close these windows. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Think about for a moment how you go about your way in your society. Are you really worried about the other person putting a knife to your throat, hitting you in the head and taking your wallet? In some places that you live in the United States, yes. But the majority of the country, no. You go about your way. Now, if the situation of the country changed, you, as an individual, would also change. If that guy has a gun, I need a gun because I need to protect myself from that guy getting a gun. And I'm saying this from the standpoint of countries. They are creating a new arms race. It is incentivized by the United States, who is, for all intents and purposes, a weapons manufacturing country who sells weapons to all over the world. When Donald Trump went to the other nations in Europe, he wasn't doing it purely for this idea of, I want you to create more weapons or buy more weapons just to buy more weapons. It was because they were buying them from us. They were buying them from us. When Russia is selling those S-300s or whatever to all these various countries, and the United States is talking about putting sanctions on those countries for buying them, they're doing it for the weapons contractors. I hate to tell you this, but your president is working at the behest of corporations. He is not working in your interests. It is a small body of 1% that is going to advantage themselves magnificently off of what Donald Trump is doing in that office. And I understand that he seemed different. He seemed somehow out of the ordinary. And yes, he would say things that was, let's say, gross. Establishment hated him. Democrats hated him. But you got to face the fucking facts. He is doing things that is bringing us to the precipice of conflict. Those countries are taking those actions in the context of us taking our actions.